So right now, we working on equal differences. Again, we just doing some editing. You got some editing in book two. Book one, we had some slight edits, but nothing too serious. And we already did the official, like a real official edit. But we just gotta go over this like maybe twice, maybe 2-3 times to kind of really clean up some of the clerical errors that they need to be cleaned up and edited and stuff like that. So right now, like I said, we in like book two. We just editing through, and we doing some stuff with the characters. Critiquing some of the plot and everything of that nature. But I guess I can just read some of where I am right here in book two. So book two, and we're at chapter two. Book two starts off with our main character being Signature, right? Signature is his nickname. Courage Major is his actual government name, right? That's his actual first and last name, Courage Major. And his nickname that we refer to him as in the storyline is Signature. So book two, chapter two, we talking about Signature, his brother name is Loyal Major, and stuff like that. So we just editing some character detail and some some actual errors in the text. So in chapter one of book two, we start off with Monica, right? The co-main character, so to say. Monica starts off with her being, like on her couch watching Friends. She eating ice cream, and we describe her puppy dog named Meatball. Stalking back and forth, feeling attention from her. And she has a rough week and stuff like that. So she's just relaxing, spending some time, watching one of her favorite shows, after like a long week or something like that. So that's how we bring in chapter one of book two. And then I guess she wakes up to a fire in her apartment complex. We describe it as apartment complex as well. We described her living space as a loft. So I'm not sure we want to do there, but I think it's fair to say an apartment complex still can be considered as a loft when we're speaking directly about, her actual apartment, right? So she wakes up to a fire in an apartment complex where she's residing, and long and behold, one of her best friends, which is an older woman, is like injured in the fire. Due to the fire, she's injured and whatnot because she's older. She can't inhale the smoke fumes from the fire and stuff like that. She passes out, and Monica, the co-character of the story, has to carry her neighbor and also one of her best friends, to safety outside of the complex building and everything like that. And that's kind of where chapter one ends for book two. And we come into chapter two, and I'll read some of it. Chapter two, book two, where we go into Signature's afternoon. So I'll start. Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on. Ah! Signature slammed his horse catalog down as Gallant the Goat came in fourth place, which meant He lost several hundreds easily. Which one was it? A soft, witty voice said evenly from behind Signature, catching him off guard. Charles! Signature became mad excited and would have bear hugged his attorney, except he had a glass of red wine in his right hand, so instead he half hugged her with his free arm. There was no mistaking her beautiful voice. What's going on, Charles? Excuse me. What's going on? Charles adjusted her suit coat and put both hands in her pockets. All right, so you see here in chapter 2, Signature, the main character of the story, is at a racetrack and he's betting on horses. His horse lose the race in 4th place, and he's a little frustrated, and he gets surprised by his attorney. His attorney name is Charles, right? And then they exclaim how happy they are to see each other. And I'll continue reading the text. Charles was Signature's go-to attorney and his second accountant. Charles and Signature had met 3 years ago and hit it off. Signature just happened to be in a bar in Staten Island hiding from the spotlight and staring up the streets when he sat at a stool and ordered his first round. 10 minutes later, a woman sat next to him and offered a handshake. Her name? Charles Meligno. Charles Meligno, her name. So she said. She was a Bulldog lawyer who graduated from NYU and joined a well-known firm. Immediately, she began beating cases up, and after a time, she would land some of the most notable criminal cases in all of the 5 boroughs. So then we get some detail there about his attorney, Charles Meligno. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like an interesting little way to pronounce her last name, Meligno. It's like an Italian attorney, right? And her name is Charles Meligno. So Signature and his attorney is meeting at a racetrack, and we give some detail about who the attorney is. So I'll continue. Signature had never heard of a lawyer named Charles Meligno that worked for Brichetti and Miles Attorneys at Law. I've never heard of Courage Major, who runs a small food market and drives an $80,000 car with factory rims. I'm quite sure our unfamiliarity Hold up. It's kind of hard to pronounce some of these words. Unfamiliarity. Let's see how that sounds.
Unfamiliarity.
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 Unfamiliarity. Unfamiliarity.
Unfamiliarity.
Unfamiliarity. Unfamiliarity. I've never heard of Courage Major, who runs a small food market and drives an $8,000 car with factory rims. I'm quite sure our unfamiliarity is common between us. Signature felt uneasy. He took a sip of his alcohol. So what? Do you hang out at bars all the time and meet friends? A big shot attorney like yourself? Charles pulled out her business card and shook her head no. She was a lawyer that was all about stopping the bleeding and was more hands-on in the field, meeting her next best client. Signature felt intrigued, and a friendship blossomed thereafter. I knew I'd find you here, didn't even have to call you back, right? So Signature felt intrigued, and a friendship blossomed thereafter, which is again, it's a little break in the text right there, but the attorney met him at a bar, right? That's what the text is describing. And that's where our relationship began as a lawyer and a client. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 2, where we go into Signature, we describe his relationship with his attorney. Now, and she's also his accountant, right? So now we go back into the current moment of them at the racetrack. I knew I'd find you here, didn't even have to call you back. Charles pulled her mirror out and checked her lipstick and eyebrows for a 10th time of the day. You know me well. Want a glass? We have ice over there. Signature indicated a small bucket to his far right. No, not so. I'm dry and I'm all right today. Anyhow, how's it going? You wanted to talk. Charles pulled out a cigar and clipped it nicely, then fired up an antique lighter and then passed Signature the cigar. Right? So here we have him and his lawyer discussing their meeting today. And she pulls out a cigar, clips the cigar for him and everything, and then passes it to him. All right, so we'll go back into the dialogue that they're having. Yeah, I'm fine. Business as well. Last week, Agent Swift tracked me down and followed me through the city. Have you heard anything through the grapevine? Signature looked at Charles concerningly. Charles shook her head slowly and raised an eyebrow simultaneously. She then swallowed slowly before she spoke as if she had just eaten a slice of dry bread. Well, from what I'm seeing in the courts is that the youngsters are being picked up for small drug arrests and even some guns. Of course, any one of them could be mentioning you or anything that could spell your name, though nothing direct or specific in regards to you, which means no news is good news. All right? Signature lifted his glass as if he were going to actually toast to that insight. All right, so that's chapter 2. When we breaking into Signature meeting his attorney at a racetrack, and they having a discussion about him being badgered by police, right? Badgered or well, in the dialogue, he's saying he's been followed and stuff like that by police. So they're discussing the possibilities surrounding him being followed by police. So that's just chapter 2. That's just a little touch on chapter 2 with Signature, the main character. He's meeting his lawyer. Again, chapter 2 begins with Monica, the co-main character, and there's a fire at her complex where she resides, and she had to carry her neighbor to safety, stuff like that. So that's the beginning of chapter 2 and how that looks. Now, chapter 2 is kind of an interesting chapter. We break it down in maybe 3 or 4 sections. I believe it might be 4 sections. 4 or 5 sections in chapter 2. Let me see. Let me make sure. So we have 3, I believe. 4 chapters. Yeah, 4 sections in chapter 2. So the third section of chapter 2. So the first section is Monica, the co-main character, with her dilemma of the morning, which is a fire in her complex. The second section is Signature, the main character, meeting his lawyer, Charles Milenio, at a racetrack while he's betting on horses, and they discussing, the circumstances around pending potential investigations, right? So now the third section in the story of chapter 2 is where we go into Loyal. Loyal Major is the brother of Courage Major, right? Now we discussed the relationship between Loyal and Signature a few times throughout the book, right? Throughout the text or whatever. And here we kind of break more into their relationship in chapter 1. So I would advise, if you want to, get a more in-depth detail about the relationship between Loyal and Courage, maybe chapter 1 you might be able to, find a little more detail on that relationship, right? Even though, again, we have 4 different books we have 4 different books within Equal Differences so far, so you will get a good idea of what kind of relationship they really have if you read the whole 48 chapters, right? So you're breaking down those 48 chapters by 12s. That's why I say it's 4 books. So now we're talking about book 2, and we're in chapter 2, right? So in chapter 2, it's 3 different sections. The first section is Monica. Second section is Signature. The third section is about Loyal, Major. So let's go into that section, and I'll start. Loyal sat rubbing his baby boy after putting him to sleep. He was on daddy duty until his girlfriend woke up from her nap. After a long night of trapping and scheming, Loyal was burnt out and his son cried half the morning. He was able to drink a Heineken and watch ESPN at 8:45 a.m. while his son slept. All right? So right here I'm saying it's a slight clerical error right in the text, and I just corrected it. All right? So I'll continue. After a long night of trapping and scheming, Loyal was burnt out and his son cried half the morning. He was able to drink a Heineken and watch ESPN at 8:45 a.m. while his son slept. The NBA is just a different game now. Times are changing. This new generation looks promising. Loyal whispered to himself. Ring, 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 ring. Loyal damn near jerked out of his chair as his phone buzzed, which also sent him into an emotional crisis as he feared his son waking back up. Damn, that was way too close. Hello, who this? Loyal spoke low through the phone. It's me, Dunny. What are you doing? Why are you being sneaky, son? You got new numbers? Frustration seeped through the phone as he spoke. This is something like that. Stop asking questions. When are you coming out, my guy? Rushy tried not to sound suspicious. It'll be just a little bit. My girl was about to take over in a second. What's the issue? Click. Before Loyal knew it, the phone went dead. This prompted him to get up while his son was still sleeping. He laid him down on top of a small rectangular blanket, then tried the number again to no avail. His next move was to go and wake his girlfriend up so he could figure something out. As he went upstairs, he could hear her breathing softly through the cracked bedroom door. Perfect. This is a win for me, a big win for me. Loyal menacingly grinned and untied the knot in his sweatpants and instantly grew hard on. Silently, he peeked his head through the door and inched his body through, not trying to wake her up from her sleep ahead of his plan. As he dropped his sweatpants and removed his t-shirt, Loyal lifted the covers from the opposite side of the bed and slithered his way next to her. Smoothly, Loyal grabbed her hair in a balled fist and yanked it at the root, as strong as he could in the most sexual way he could. Though she was familiar with his behavior already, immediately she moaned. You always want to start. Loyal's girlfriend adjusted her body sideways and pushed her ass cheeks into his pelvis area, and their skin met warmly. Roughly, he grabbed her right ass cheek and spread it open and forced his dry penis into her already wet opening. As her vagina engulfed his manhood, he smacked her buttocks with real purpose and rammed her fast until she began to scream uncontrollably, indicating a euphoria. Trying to prolong the good sex, Loyal began stroking her slowly and sensitively, making love to her as he began biting her back and her neck, so much so until she began to scream from pain. And just at that moment, she began sexting him back wildly in pleasure, forcing him to climax abruptly. Right? So here we are. In section 3 of chapter 2, Loyal Major is, he's up with his son. His son is asleep, but he had a long night. He's having a long morning. He's trying to keep his son asleep so he can relax. He's having a beer. He's watching ESPN. His phone rang. One of his friends called him and everything like that, trying to figure out when he's coming outside so they can kind of like meet up and stuff like that. So now his decision was to go and wake up his girlfriend, and everything like that, so that way he can, go see what that conversation is about. He's hustling. He's trying to figure out, what's going on. Is this about some business or not, right? Kind of the indication from the dialogue when they have the phone call. Now, Loyal goes to the bedroom and, he arouses his girlfriend and they, begin a sex scene, right? So that's where we at, right? So now I'll skip to the next section. The fourth section, right, is still based around Loyal, right? So the fourth section of chapter 2, and I'll dive through this section. It's not really a long section here. The first section about Loyal, and then chapter 3 begins, and we can stop there. But so here we are. Rushy was sitting inside of his GMC truck, taking sips of Dom Julio straight from the bottle, waiting for Loyal to come outside. Loyal jumped in on the passenger side. "What's the deal, Rushy?" Shaking hands, they both seemed excited. Right? So here we are. It's around 9 a.m. in the morning. They already having their drinks for the morning. It just gives you the idea of the kind of lifestyle that they have, right? You know what I'm saying? The kind of behavior that they're conducting. It's 9 a.m. He's already drinking a bottle of Don Julio in the truck. He's already having a beer, watching ESPN, right? It's 9 a.m. So, okay, now Loyal gets in the car with his friend. His friend name is Rushy, one of his best friends. Again, if you read through the text and read some of the dialogue from other chapters, you'll see what kind of relationship Rushy and Loyal has, right? I'll continue. "What's the deal, Rushy?" Shaking hands, they both seem excited. "Been running around all day, traffic hectic, the phone buzzing, and the youngins around the tower killing shit right now. Numbers looking up." Rushy spoke with a high volume of street intelligence. Sophistication just rolled out of his mouth like natural. That's why Loyal and Rushy were like the perfect two-man team. One super street smart, one super street active. "Indeed, I like how it sounds. Yesterday, we cleared the whole package. We are having a good run with it. Anyway, what's the urgency phone calls about?" Loyal turned half his body sideways and grimaced at Rushy. "Man, look, the dude pressure. Now, I know we don't need weight from an outside source. I know we don't even trust people. But we both agreed that this was lickable, right?" Rushy started to bring his point to the surface. Excuse that mispronunciation error when I was reading the text, right after the dialogue. I'll continue. "Man, look, the dude pressure. Now I know we don't need weight from an outside source. I know we don't even trust people. But we both agreed that this was lickable, right?" Rushy started to bring his point to the surface. "All right. Yeah, of course. They want to be off-brand types. I mean, what is the situation looking like?" Loyal wanted more details. Rushy took a deep breath and looked at the cars around him and traffic moving swiftly. "Hey, dude, I'm going to keep it a buck. Main man saying he got bricks for $24,000. Now, I know it's like too good of a deal right now. But in the worst case, it's stepped down already. At the same time, he could be trying to get some easy money off finesse. Either him or whoever he with going to have to check out if we go forward with it." Loyal sat thinking and looking in the mirror long and hard before he spoke again. "What would Signature do?" he questioned himself. Right? So now we have the dialogue now we have the dialogue in the conversation with Loyal and his friend while they're in the vehicle, and they're discussing a potential transaction where it's involving a lot of money. Right? I'll continue because the section is almost over after some more of the dialogue. Where Loyal was questioning himself about what would his older brother do, Signature, right? The main character. So, excuse me, Loyal is questioning himself about what would his older brother do in a scenario like this, or what a scenario like that. What would Signature do? He questioned himself. All right, tell him we just want 18 ounces first, then you can get a brick and a half from him, and tell him I'll meet for the bigger purchases. And then after that, we take him out. H.I. rubbed his hands together as he felt his plan was smart enough to work. Though Rushy didn't care either way, he was beyond loyal, automatically pro-loyal, and he wanted some money. I'm going to set it up and grab the half, and we're going to situate the rest. Word. The Loyal confidants shook hands and pulled up out front of the South Tower. Chapter 3. So, that's the ending of Chapter 2 in Book 2, right? Where we have Loyal Major and one of his close friends. They're discussing some, if we go by the text, if we go by the dialogue, he referred to the guy as an off-brand wannabe type. So they're discussing some off-brand wannabe types that, are interested in doing a business deal with them regarding contraband, right? Now, as they're interested in doing contraband deals with Loyal and his guy, his confidant, then now they're discussing how they can go about that, right? So obviously they feel like it's a money grab. They want to get some money, and they want to get away with the money. So in the dialogue, you see how they're discussing it, how they felt about that, right? Like, all right, I'll tell him we just want some ounces first, right? And again, we editing some of the storyline. We editing some of the errors, you know what I'm saying? So this is like right now as I'm going over the whole thing, as I'm, reading the actual dialogue and the actual text, right? So he was saying, Loyal responded, all right, tell him we just want 9 ounces first, then we could get a brick and a half from him, and tell him I'll meet for the bigger purchases, right? All right, so where I'm editing at right now is he said 18 ounces first, then it was something saying 9 ounces next, then it was something saying a brick and a half, right? Next. All right, so we're just going to edit that and just erase all of that, right? And just say 18 ounces and leave it there, right? So it's just some work that, as an editor, you know what I'm saying? As an editor, some work like that. I'm just giving you an example of some of the editing that I'm having to do as far as the text. Again, with Equal Differences, it was very imperative, very important to just up the book, you know what I'm saying? Upload the book, get it out, get it done. So it's a lot of like rough draft vibes, you know what I'm saying, to everything that was released, you know what I'm saying, in those previous 48 chapters. So it's just a cleanup as far as those 48 chapters go. And, pretty much we're looking pretty decent. We're looking pretty good and whatnot. It's just small errors now. We cleaned up a lot of the big errors. And, again, we changing some detail to the characters and some of the storyline as well, right? So that is all hard work. It takes some time consuming for sure, and whatnot. So, yeah. Now, just to spoil you a little bit, I'll go right into chapter 3, and then I'm going to get back to editing. Right? So chapter 3, and I'll begin. Telva Discortesi walked into the gentleman's club and immediately was greeted by many patrons he knew from the old neighborhood. As he got through a couple handshakes and hugs, he finally found himself at the bar seated next to Matthew Glumlineri. Right? So you see the pronunciation of some of the characters is kind of awkward, you know what I mean? It's kind of awkward because some of their names are different languages than English. We have some Spanish characters, we have some Italian characters, we have some American characters, American English names and stuff like that. We have some different words, wordplay going on within the 48 chapters. So that being said, the pronunciation of some of the characters and some of the words is like a tongue twister almost, But it just makes the storyline and the plot and the detail, the character detail, even more interesting. So that's what we aiming for. We want to keep it interesting. And the tongue twisters, the things you might have to pronounce once or twice, the things that you might have to question and figure out. You might have to Google a few things, right? It just all, enhances the beauty of the art. You know what I'm saying? The beauty of the art, the interesting, details and the format of the actual book itself. Again, we at chapter 3. We bringing it in with Telva Discortesi, right? So I'm not going to go into details about Telva Discortesi, but I guess you would say in the first book, right, you get some detail about who Telva Discortesi is. That's your homework, your challenge to go and, do that work and figure out the other details about Telva Discortesi. If you're just now tapping in or checking in, then you'll get some detail about who he is and what's going on with him from chapter 3 of book 2, right? So we're in book 2, that's chapter 3, and I'll continue. Telva Discortesi walked into the gentleman's club and immediately was greeted by many patrons he knew from the old neighborhood. As he got through a couple of handshakes and hugs, he finally found himself at the bar seated next to Matthew Glumlineri. Yo, T, what's happening? Good to see you can make it. Matthew gave him a jab to the shoulder and waved for the waiter. What are you having? Telva nonchalantly gripped his beard. I wouldn't mind a bourbon right now. Bourbon it is. Matthew Glumlineri put a $20 bill face first on the counter for the waiter, too. So what have you been up to? How's your father? Got a smoke on you? Telva sipped his bourbon and grabbed a stick of tobacco from Matthew as he showed utmost interest in what the meeting was about. He's doing all right, I remember growing up, you and my uncle would always talk business about accountants and numbers. A bunch of shit I had no idea about. Now I do. Matthew Glumlineri paused for a second to enjoy his shots on the rocks. His shot on the rocks, right? Yeah, I remember those times, Matthew. Your uncle and I really were learning right in front of you all. Telva lifted his glass in respect to his dear friend and his leader, Mafiosi. Telva Discortesi was made into the Glumlineri family back when Jim Glumlineri was still just a soldier in a running for position. Telva, being a slight bit older, made captain in the early 2000s. In a time frame of around about 2005, he was able to see the younger Jim Glumlineri take control of the family and hold the reins. Right? So I'll stop there. Now we have Telva Discortesi meeting Matthew Glumlineri, right? The nephew of Jim Glumlineri, right? Of the Glumlineri crime family, so to speak, right? So now here we are in the text, chapter 3. This is the first section in chapter 3. They sitting at a bar, they having a discussion, and, they going back and forth and, appreciating each other and showing utmost love, you know what I'm saying? Kind of thing you might see in a movie, two guys kissing each other on the cheek. You know, it's just a respect thing. It's a love thing. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that, right? So I'll continue and get to the point of what their conversation, their meeting is about here at this bar in this particular scene. And then, you know, we'll go from there. So today, Telva was still active, running over 5 rackets, half legal and some illegal. His first priority was his insurance company position as senior legal director. Even still, on occasion, he'd take the call to do very special hits directly for the boss himself because he was trusted and capable of high-quality jobs. Indeed, I remember vividly. That's why I invited you here. See, I have a friend of mine who could use your direction. I'm sure you could give him some assistance with it. Matthew moved his hands in a peaceful manner. Okay. And you ran this past the skip. Telva Discortesi began to show his age as he questioned Matthew Gumlineri pertaining to the chain of order. Matthew Gumlineri knocked another shot down and winced his eyes from the quick burn of tequila, then hesitated before he spoke again. Right? Hey, kid, you look just like Jim when you wipe your face with your napkin. Fucking walking image of your father. Telva grabbed Matthew by the shoulder and squeezed hard. I already know, Big T. Strong genes. Yeah. Though, I ran it across everyone. This particular person is a trustworthy friend. Courage Major. Strike a match? Matthew spoke slowly and leaned in as he disposed the information. Telva Discortesi made a face. Somewhat familiar. Something with your cousin in that Fair case, right? Yeah, that'd be him. So it's nothing risky. Though, it is risky. Only because he is considerably a wanted man in his own right. My man is banking some serious money. He just needs some professional direction. Advice, so to say. Matthew wrapped both hands around his glass of alcohol. Interesting. We are talking 50K, 100K, or what? Telva smiled hungrily like a wolf. 3 million was the figure I received, and it'll have to be washed up and clean. Matthew Gumlineri almost whispered the more details. Telva swirled his bourbon around and dumped the contents down his throat with eagerness, waved for the waiter's attention and ordered a double shot of more bourbon. That's nice. That's nice. A large amount for a startup project. Which industry do you know? Right? So here we are. Again, I'll stop. Telva Discortesi approaches a bar and he's having a sit-down conversation with Matthew Gumlineri, right? And they're discussing a friend that Matthew Gumlineri is trying to, you know, be the middleman of a business transaction. So I'll continue. Matthew Gumlineri smiled and rubbed his fingers together cleverly, exclaiming major money potential. Auto industry, car lot idea. He has a business plan with it. Do you want to take it from here? Telva Discortesi shook his head yes and grinned superiorly, showcasing his pretty new teeth. Give him my number and I'll patch him through to someone reliable. That'll give him proper expertise. At a snubby cost, of course. He'll be in contact soon, no worries. He'll take good care of you. Matthew Gumlineri shook hands one last time before he handed Telva an envelope with $9,000 in cold hard cash in it as a showing of respect for his elder mafiosi. Then Matthew Gumneri left him at the bar alone. All right. So chapter 3 is relatively a short chapter. That's actually the whole chapter. Right. So the whole chapter 3 is just these two gentlemen meeting in a gentleman's club at the bar, having a conversation, kind of whispering in each other's ear about a friend of Matthew's. And again, you read through some of the dialogue and some of the text in previous chapters, and you'll see the relationship that Courage Major has with Matthew Gumneri, right? So I leave that to you once again to go dissect the rest of the relationship that they have, or the rest of the information, details to that relationship. Now, here we are in this scene, chapter 3, at the bar discussing him, Courage Major, and a business deal that he's trying to do. And again, he's mentioning $3 million and a car lot idea and everything like that. And he's looking for some kind of professional direction or something, so to say, so he don't put the money in the wrong direction, I guess, right? So there it is. That's chapter 3. And then at the end, of course, he passed him a $9,000 cash envelope, you know, for his help, you know what I'm saying, already, before he even contacts Courage Major personally, right? Before they even meet each other, he already paying him himself. So it's just going into those kind of details with the text and the dialogue, as you can see. Now, you know, I'm just showing the process, you know, the behind the scenes process of what the editing looks like, you know, and as well reading some of the content, some of the dialogue and the scenes from the actual chapters within the book itself. And I think that's pretty decent, and maybe, you know, I can start doing that more frequently, you know, for the audience, for the readers and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to re-releasing the new updated copy of Equal Differences with the first 48 chapters and everything like that. And I would advise to definitely stay tuned, because we looking good with this. It's looking pretty decent. You know.